Today we're going to talk about the one thing that's blocking your progress if you've experienced betrayal trauma. And this probably goes against everything you're doing right now and everything that you've heard about trauma recovery. But let's take a closer look at why therapy stalls and isn't quite able to get you across the line. I've been traveling in Iceland. I soaked in geothermal pools and did a road trip from Copenhagen through Sweden to Norway. And I was learning about new concepts from a book called 1,000 Plateaus. And I'm going to apply some of these concepts to betrayal trauma. So let me know what you think in the comments. What happens in talk therapy is that you're trying to understand why, to get insights, to get more self-knowledge and more self-awareness through the means of making what is unconscious and what you're not aware of and bringing that into your conscious awareness. And knowing why is paying attention to what's not working. In therapy, and don't get me wrong, because I have done my fair share of therapy, but knowing why is bringing your attention and paying attention to what's not working and why it's not working. It's because people think that there's going to be some freedom in knowing why. When we have trauma, we want to know why we feel bad, and we can't get out of it. But this is a little bit like if you felt bad physically for the past year and then finding out why, and maybe it's because you have cancer. Knowing why might give you the answers, but it doesn't give you exactly what you're looking for. In fact, knowing why you feel bad probably then creates even more distress than what you were feeling before you knew why. And now you're feeling bad about feeling bad and feeling even worse about why you've been feeling bad. Let's come back to betrayal trauma. If you're trying to find out why you've been having problems in your relationship, at work, in your life, and then you go digging up the pain of the past because you want to understand why, because you think you need to know everything, you think that for your recovery, you need to know everything that your partner did and why he did it. And here's the thing, if your recovery depends on something that someone else does or does not do, you might be waiting for a long time. They actually pay for therapy to dig up all the pain, and they might have even forced the person that has cheated on them to go to therapy with them, even though that's the last thing a cheater wants to do. They will probably just show up because you want them to. And we all know that real change comes from within. It's not because someone's making you go to therapy that you're all of a sudden going to stop cheating and totally come clean. So these women want to find out what has happened, and they get someone to help them dig up the past. And I know clients who have done this before they've found me. This search for the truth to find out what has happened and why takes them out. And they don't get freedom from that information. It actually makes things more complex. And how do you know when a cheater is telling you the truth anyway, and if he's telling you all of the truth? And this is exactly why you keep getting trickle truth, because they don't really want to tell you. And every time they share a little more with you, you keep experiencing Discovery Day over and over again, so that you have to start again from that day that you discovered something new about what happened. If it makes you feel worse when you dig up all the pain that you didn't know about, and now you're feeling bad about your relationship, your work, your life, and you're also feeling bad about what happened in the past that you didn't know before. And we all know that the past is something that we can't go back and change anyway. And you will never know if a cheater has told you everything or if what they're telling you is true. What this does is it creates hypervigilance, and it will cause you to be triggered as fuck. It creates this complex feeling of feeling even worse. And this is the model of talk therapy, where you actually pay to go back every week to dig up more of the past. And you focus on why you're feeling bad. And don't get me wrong, because this is something that I did 3 times a week after I found out that my ex was cheating on me. And from a neuroscience perspective, what this is doing, talking about the past, talking about why you're feeling bad, it's actually reinforcing the neural pathways of feeling bad into multiple layers of feeling bad. Every time you feel bad, every time you think about what's going on, every time that you go back and revisit the past, you put another layer on. And somehow that feeling bad about the past starts to affect what's happening now. And what happens with trauma is that usually it starts in one area, like betrayal in your relationship, and then it starts to spread to other areas of your life. So if you've experienced some form of betrayal by someone who you trusted, like a partner, it might have started there, but what happens is that you start to isolate. So you're not seeing your friends or your family, and you might not be doing the things that you love to do. The trauma takes away your hobbies and your passions. And eventually what happens is that trauma starts to affect your money, your job, your career. And it starts to affect the way you show up at work and your sense of security and your sense of safety. Because the outer world starts to reflect what's happening in your inner world. And so the problem with thinking about problems this way is that you think that if you find out what the root cause is, if you dig up enough and you get to the roots, that you're going to be able to take down the whole tree. But here's the thing. If you haven't been able to solve your problem and you're still stuck in trauma, with all this knowing and all the insights and all the understanding and all the work that you've been doing to dig up the past, if you could have solved the problem at the conscious level, you would have done that already. Here's the thing. It's because you're looking at the problem like it even has a root cause. And that's the problem. You think that your betrayal is like a tree and you're looking for that root cause. And you think that when you get to the big why, you think that you're going to get this big aha moment and that everything will topple over. But what no one is talking about is that complex problems are not like trees in the first place. They don't have a single root cause that if you find it, you'll resolve it. Betrayal trauma is more like bamboo. If you try to cut down bamboo, it doesn't work because there is this whole mess of roots that are growing below the surface in multi-dimensional layers. It's not just one root. It's this tangled CF of roots that are acentric. Betrayal trauma is acentric, meaning there's no single center or controlling part that if you cut that out, it will kill the bamboo. Betrayal trauma is not linear. So this problem hasn't grown in a linear way, like straight up and down with roots. These problems were created beyond language, beyond logic, and conscious awareness. This is why when you're talking about what happened and trying to use logic and conscious awareness and trying to dig things up, it's not working. You're going around in circles because that's not how these problems were created in the first place. The complexity of these problems were created without your conscious awareness. This whole problem and the bad feelings that are keeping you stuck were created outside of your conscious awareness, outside of your conscious control, and without logic. It doesn't make sense that you've been working on this problem for months, maybe even years. Some of my clients, before they find me, they've been working on these problems for decades. Like one client who's in their 70s, and they've been experiencing trauma since childhood. These types of complex problems were created without language or conscious awareness, without a structure that makes sense. It's just a tangled, multi-layered mess that's just below the surface of your conscious awareness. So if talk therapy isn't getting you to where you want to be, what you need to do is instead of trying to bring things into your conscious awareness, talking about what happened and why, you need to leave things where they are. Just leave things in the subconscious. Don't go digging it all up, because your mind and your body has dissociated and is blocking things out for a good reason. It's actually a really good strategy. You might feel dissociated and numb about what's happened to you in the past, and you're leaving it down in your subconscious. And the better strategy than bringing it up and feeling bad about it and adding another layer of complexity to your trauma, what you need to do is leave the problem where it is. Instead of bringing up the trauma, we need to come down into the subconscious, and we need to leave logic and language behind, because focusing on the past takes you out of the present moment. So we're going to come down into the subconscious and work with it there so that you're not even aware of what's happening, because you don't need to know. Your brain can actually resolve your trauma without your conscious awareness, without your conscious mind getting in there. It actually works better when we distract the conscious mind so that your subconscious is free to do what it knows how to do already. So we both get our conscious mind out of the way, because if you haven't been able to solve the problem with your conscious mind, there's no way that anyone else, even me, is going to be able to solve your problems with their conscious mind. So we're going to get both our conscious mind out of the way. That overwhelm that you feel when you think about the betrayal is actually what's keeping your brain from being able to process and integrate what's happened. Integration is just the neuroscience word for healing. It's when your brain can take all the fragments, like all the flashbacks and the intrusive thoughts, those bad feelings that come out of nowhere, when it's able to integrate or connect all these pieces and put the puzzle together so that what happened can be complete and that it can be filed away into the past, so that it starts to feel further and further away every day. The best way to do this is with accelerated hypnotherapy, where you don't even have to talk about the problem. I don't have to know about the problem, and you don't even have to know all the different layers. We're going to connect you with your superconscious mind. We're going to connect you with all the resources to help your brain rewire, because your superconscious knows exactly how to fix all this. Your subconscious knows everything that's ever happened to you, all the things you remember and all the things that you don't even remember. It knows how to get you out of the past and into the present moment so that you can actually be present for your life, and you can start creating intentions and access new possibilities for moving forward. Most of my clients are just one session away. If this makes sense to you, drop a heart emoji in the comments, subscribe for more, and like this. I've put a link in the description if you are looking for more clarity. And let's connect on the next one.